holidays and stuff coming up, I'm going to go live. A decent amount. I've been live actually today on TikTok. I was live on Facebook and go live on YouTube. And go live for, a half hour, answer questions, just give people kind of a place to go. I know the holidays for a lot of people is a bit of a struggle. Just fighting through life sometimes is a bit of a struggle. So to know that there's support out there, I think makes a huge difference. To have opportunities to ask questions, I think is really important. And it is one of those things I do find a lot of inspiration through going live and through interacting with other people. The more that we interact with other people, the less that we feel alone. You get ideas, you get inspiration, you realize that you can, sometimes do a lot more than what you ever thought you could. It was a huge part in me getting sober was, interacting with other people. Even when it came times where I was really struggling with depression, I was struggling with a lot of things mentally, to know that I wasn't alone, to get people to actually struggling like I am, made all the difference in the world to me. And so that was one of the things that I love the most. And that's why I do enjoy going live, because I think it's amazing. I think it's fun to see, people connect and stuff in different ways. And that's why I do them. It gives people also a safe place to ask questions. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm none of that. I lost my wife to suicide in 2015. I lost my dad to suicide in 2017. I ended up attempting to take my life in 2018. I'm a recovering cocaine alcoholic addict. I got diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, GAD, MDD, level 1 autism. I have self-harm scars. I've done a lot when it came to social media, and sharing my story and sharing testimony is it's fun. It's fun to hear other people's testimonies, because it's like, dude, we're all not alone. We're all going through the same thing. It makes us feel that we're normal. Like, that's the best part, is feeling that we're normal, feeling that we aren't the only ones going through this BS. We're not the only ones out there sometimes struggling, because it does get really lonely, I think, sometimes. And that's the hardest part of me, for me at least, when I was an active addict, was getting to that part where I felt so alone. I felt that nobody cared. I felt like I was like literally just this one person in this world only, going through all this shit, and no one would get me. No one got this the way that I struggled. And that was the worst, because the more that you isolated, like the more that it enabled me to use, the more that I was the victim to my own story. And it led me down a lot of dark paths. So the more that I think that we feel that we're not alone, and we know that we aren't, is huge. And I know that there's a lot of like people out there with inspiring stories. And that's the amazing thing, is I love hearing other people's stories. 10 and a half months sober. That's awesome, Connor. Way to go, dude. I love seeing people that have been sober for a while. And that's the thing, is like, I remember when I was a week sober, and I'm like, why would I be proud of a week sober? And it wasn't until later on I realized how much longer it didn't matter. Like, it was, every day was a day. It was, every week was a week. And it was like, you started just watching time pass. And that was huge. What's up, Martin? How are you? So congratulations on that, because it is a huge fight. It's not easy. What's up? I haven't been live here much. I'm gonna actually be live a lot more. I've put together a routine. I have level 1 autism, and one of the things that I've always found that works really well for me is if I put together routines. I've tried to get it where it was like consistent on all different social medias, and just sharing and doing live streams and talking, interacting with people, and like pointing them towards resources and stuff, that I always thought it was really important to do. Because I know when I struggled, like I could watch stuff, but I never knew where to find stuff. That was always my problem. I hope you're having a good day too, Michelle. That was the thing, is it was always trying to find where to get resources or how to get help. All of that. How did I find out I was autistic? So I found out I was autistic, actually not by choice, in a sense. It wasn't like I went to the doctors and I was like, hey, test me for autism. I knew I exhibited signs of autism. My dad was actually diagnosed Asperger's. This is back in like the 90s, before when it switched over to like level 1 autism. I knew that it was genetic, and I knew I had some traits of it. And in 2020, I was going through a lot of shit. And I found a therapy company, group out there that I worked with, and they ended up helping test me for autism. And it was a process, and it ended up that I did. And it made life make a lot more sense. It wasn't like an excuse for anything, but it made sense on how I struggled with really strong coping of overwhelming emotions and sensory regulation, why I did a lot of the things that I did. So I think one of the best things that I did was to find out that I was autistic. That's why I think it's so important to get a diagnosis. Don't go online and self-diagnose, because if you self-diagnose, you're not going to know what your true diagnosis is. Find out if you truly are ADHD or if you have PTSD, what it might be, because then you get on the right medication, sometimes the right coping, and the right tools. I love the videos. Dad is alcoholic. They've helped. I'm glad they helped. And my heart goes out to you if your dad is family members as alcoholics and family members as addicts is rough because you can't do anything. And it sucks because especially when it's a parent, because it's like, why don't they love me as much as they love a bottle? Or why don't they love me as much as they love a needle? And it creates a lot of trauma, unfortunately. And that's the big thing I always suggest with people is like, dude, if you have family members who are addicts, get into trauma therapy because you got to learn how to grieve. Thanks. Well, the coping traits, exactly. I read out as heavy metals, childhood, vaccination. It could be, Michelle. I don't know if it is or not. When it comes from vaccinations, what causes autism per se. I know this though, like hitting my head as a child to try and sensory regulate was a common trait of autism. But I don't know what, essentially causes it. I'm 44. All I know is I look at myself now and I go, hey, this is what I got. So this is, how do I work with this? Good to see you. Good to see you too. Glad you're fighting it too, Stephanie. And that's the cool thing. It is cool to always see people that haven't ever given up and that just keep going at it. I love it. Are you live right now? I am live right now, actually, Lolita. I do a lot of live streams. I try to go live a decent amount, and I think it's important to go live to actually interact and be able to share, especially when it comes to mental health and it comes to addiction. It's just nice to know that we're not alone. Father's alcoholic, husband's addict. Dude, I feel it. And that was me. I mean, I was an alcoholic. I was a cocaine addict. Those were my drugs of choice. And I created a ton of trauma. I hurt a ton of people. I did a lot of damage. I wish, like looking back, it's not like I could have did anything with my addiction per se, but I wish I wouldn't have hurt and did so much fallout damage essentially as I did as an addict. I mean, I caused a lot of trauma for a lot of people. And that's the part that was probably the worst. Thinking of testing for autism because I am socially awkward. And that's the thing is get tested for autism, get tested for ADHD. A lot of people who are addicts are actually neurodivergent with autism or ADHD because addiction slows us down. It makes us feel normal. It takes away what we think is social anxiety. We think we can communicate better. It slows down that internal dialogue, all that internal fear, the sensory rejection. I mean, there's a lot that goes on in it. And I didn't realize how much of this stuff was actually attributed to ADHD. And now it's not a reason or excuse why you're an addict. It's not like, oh, I'm an addict because I have autism and ADHD. No, it's a lot like, hey, learn about this and learn what to stay away from or what to work with. But I will say definitely get tested, especially if you're an addict. Find out because it's typically with addiction, a lot of times it is such a coping tool for things that we don't realize that. I'm helping as an addict. I've been punching bag for 18 years, being hit in the head. I feel it. 44 years old, grief therapy is still number one need. It really is the number one need. It definitely is. Thank you, Michelle. I really appreciate that. All your words. Hey, you're not alone, Diamond. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate that, Triggs. Sorry, I'm just catching up. Huh? I can't be all over the place. Yeah, exactly. When you're humming. No, when you're humming, even sour candy, stuff like that. Your brain can't be all over the place. But the one thing that was amazing, like with me, is when I drank alcohol and stuff and I would do Coke, it also slowed my brain down. And it made me feel normal. Like it made me feel that I could focus all of a sudden. It gave me kind of a different type of energy. It didn't give me this mad energy where I wanted to like just be crazy and hoorah, but it gave me almost this weird focus energy. Like that was one of my biggest struggles is it was such an unhealthy coping tool for me. Like if I wanted to clean my house, I started drinking because drinking allowed me to focus. And like I would start off and parts of my house would be dialed in. And as I got drunker through the day and I drank more through the day, the worse it kind of got, and to the point of like I pass out. Like my bedroom was always the worst. Bedroom and closet was always the worst because by that time I was like fucked up. Suicide, people have treated differently for people have never treated me differently from my attempt, but they've treated you, it sounds like, MDA, overdose, parents, friends. They haven't treated me any different. I'm glad that they haven't treated you any different. The thing is that sometimes people will treat you a little bit differently if you do try to take your life. Some people don't. I was never treated any differently for wanting to take my life, other than people knew that there was a problem up here and were very supportive with it. You find out really quick who's on your side and who's with you through the long haul and who's not. It does weed people out really quick. You can relate to that, yeah. We're smashing stigma, alcoholism, mental health. You have to thank you, King. I appreciate that. I feel my brain not in control anymore. Yeah, no, and that's the hardest part too. Salty is like a lot of times I always felt my brain was never in control. It was always internal dialogue. It was always internal urges to drink. It was internal uses. I wanted this to stop, man. Do you know what it's like to have this stop? I would go to a Motel 6 and I'd go on a bender because on a bender I was so focused on drugs and alcohol and sex that this just went quiet for a little bit, and there was no more loss and there was no more grief. There was no more pain. And the worst part was those I was creating so much more that I had to come back. Eventually you come back to reality, and it was like whatever I was escaping from, it was just 10 times worse. Now I'm lying and I'm doing whatever I can because I literally have just screwed up everything. And that was the worst part of it. I feel horrible that I feel normal. Yeah, most people feel normal. The nod, I don't think I can talk and leave out. Yeah. What's your thoughts on marijuana? I don't know if it really helps with ADHD. I will say the stuff that's helped me the most with ADHD is stuff that creates dopamine. And weed doesn't really create dopamine. It creates such a small amount that it's not. Caffeine, I think, is better. Like caffeine, actually, I believe in treatment of ADHD in some senses. I actually work with a company that's Dial It In. They do phase one, it's called. And this stuff I actually take on the weekends because I don't take my meds during the weekends. And this has caffeine in it, L-theanine in it, different B vitamins in it, and it helps your neurotransmitters and everything. This stuff's actually pretty amazing, but weed itself for ADHD, I don't necessarily agree with. But again, I'm not a professional when it comes to that. Please explain your first year sobriety, creating a new life. First year sobriety been sucked. You want to know my first year sobriety with being an alcoholic sucked. As a cocaine addict, alcoholic, I was sober. I was angry. I hated my life. I hated everything. I couldn't get my brain normal. I struggled massively with depression. I wish I would have saw a therapist. I wish I would have got on like SSRIs or something. I had MAD pause, which is post-acute withdrawal syndrome, which is just my brain was fucked, man. I could not get happy. And it was a fight. Like I was sober, but I hated life. And it was actually that way for a couple years until I finally went to therapy. That was one of the big things. I wish I would have went to therapy sooner. I wish I would have went to trauma therapy sooner. Found out I had a lot of childhood trauma. I had a lot of grief that I had to learn how to grieve. So when it came to like working through a lot of things, once I finally went to therapy and worked through and healed a lot, I stopped having the urges and the desires to use, and I could really start finding joy in hobbies and stuff. That was one of the big things. But having support was also key. When it comes to, I think it's worse to be addicted to Xanax by far. I've been looking for into kratom, ketamine. Ketamine, you can. So there's ketamine therapy out there. My doctor has suggested me to try and do ketamine therapy. I got diagnosed with MDD, a major depressive disorder. This is back in my 20s. I do still go through depressive bouts and stuff, but my doctor brought up ketamine therapy for me. I'm not about doing it. It's not really for me. When it comes to kratom, I wouldn't do kratom because kratom bonds to your opiate receptors, the pain receptors essentially. I always just call them opiate receptors. There's parts of your brain that accept this, and it takes away pain. It helps your body in that way of pain management. The problem is because of the bond that it creates when you withdraw from it, these nerves get really hyper excited. So you go through really bad withdrawals. The withdrawals are going to be very similar to opiate withdrawals, maybe not on that scale, but they're not good. But when it comes to ketamine, talk to your doctor about it. It can help people. That's why ketamine therapy is becoming more and more important. I wouldn't say necessarily is it important, but it's more and more talked about. Marijuana makes you paranoid. Yeah, marijuana makes me super paranoid. How do you heal from the damage? Trauma therapy helps. One of the signs like you've actually healed from is that there's no vesical reflex anymore, which means like it's no more tears, no more emotions when you talk about something. My wife died by suicide. I can talk about my wife's suicide very openly and honestly, and even my dad's suicide. And I don't have the tears. I don't have that painful emotion anymore because I've healed from a lot of that. Excuse me. That's when you know you're healing through a lot of your trauma. That's why I actually do the one-on-one coaching even that I do. I do a lot of mentoring. If you go to ericbzink.com, link should be down below in the description even of this live. But with ericbzink.com, I do a lot actually through there to help people, kind of track them through of how I got help. If you smoke enough, it does. It could, I guess. Damage, marijuana, paranoia. Yeah. Do you ever buy drugs on the dark web? No, never. Anything on the dark web, over half the black market pills out there are pill press pills. So majority of pill press pills are going to have fent in them. I would never buy pills from anywhere than getting a prescription through a pharmacist with my doctor's help. Your septum broke through this spring. So the only way that your septum M240 or 420 is the only way to heal all this, like your septum and your nose concave, all that type of stuff, is literally surgery. It's not going to heal. That's the reality of snorting crystal meth or snorting cocaine. Snorting anything through here, it's going to eat away at the mucous membrane. It eats away at all the cartilage. You can burn the hole in the top of your mouth. The only thing that actually cures this is surgery, and they're not going to do surgery if you're still an active addict. You can't be physically addicted to weed. Yeah, it's more of a habit that you're addicted to. What I do with work, Ben, I actually do social media full time. I've done shrooms before, yes. Like a year abused MDMA, intensified my ADHD, made it worse, proceeds meth, heroin for the next 9 years. That's brutal. Try and skip up here. What about IV use of meth? IV use of meth isn't going to burn your septum. IV use of meth, I mean, where are you shooting up at? I mean, because that's a huge portion. You don't realize how many people actually IV up meth. But you're going to have more damage into your veins. You're not going to have the nose damage when it comes to IVing meth. You might not even have meth mouth, unless you're still not eating or drinking anything. That's one of the things. Yeah, okay, so you're going to have their damage in your veins more than anything, or in your arteries. A lot more pressure and damage to your heart too, along with your brain. The other part is it can do a lot of damage to your serotonin receptors. A lot of times it's burning your receptors, so that damage can become permanent. The quicker that you do quit, the better chance you have of it actually healing, though. Question about my grandmother last month that told me she was going to commit suicide with pills, and I don't know. I would share it with your parents. Talk to your parents and tell her parents and tell everybody in your family that she's thinking about taking her life. That's one of the best things that you can do, and talk to her. Why does she want to take her life? I've done both of them, Steve. Wasn't my thing. Lying to the doctors just so I could get more Valium. People have Connor, have done the pill shopping and stuff. I never pill shopped. I'm a recovering cocaine alcoholic addict. I am prescribed Adderall. I've never pill shopped for Adderall. I'm very open with my psychiatrist though, man. When I've sat with them, and I've also explained to my psychiatrist, like, dude, when I didn't medicate for my ADHD, I self-medicated for my ADHD. And I think there's a lot of therapists out there that actually know that. It's just a lot of times finding the right therapist. 10 milligrams, when I feel much better with my ADHD depression tips, I should start my day with the IR. I would go, Joey, through your doctor more or less on that. I'm not qualified for that question, but I will say this, Joey, the one thing that can actually help you a lot with it is take zinc. Take zinc. I don't have it here. I take zinc with mine. Zinc does an amazing job with Adderall because of what it does for your promoting your growth and your health, for your neurotransmitter regulation. And that's what ADHD meds do, is it affects all your neurotransmitters, your dopamine. So believe it or not, you're mixing zinc with ADHD meds helps out a lot. Glad I came across your live stream. Been busy watching your videos. Oh, I appreciate that, lady. For a while, I'm proud of you too. Sniffing Fallon. I need tips for come down. Come downs on what? On ADHD meds? You might be taking too much if you have come downs on your meds. I take 10 milligram in the morning. I take 10 milligrams in the afternoon. My meds wear off right around 5, 6 o'clock. And I can tell the meds wear off, and my come down is essentially I have an internal dialogue that starts, and I'm not as motivated as I was. And that's when I really have to focus on things that I really enjoy, like dopamine seeking, in a sense of like going to the gym and stuff like that. Does kratom make you sick when you drink? It can make you sick when you drink, not usually. Kratom is not going to make you sick unless you're taking too much and you're going to start vomiting it up. Your body rejects it at a certain point. Septum, I know I need to quit ASAP, but some of the warning signs that were serious issues, collapse, holes in the nose, is imminent. It's not necessarily imminent, but it can happen. I mean, that's the thing, is just because you use doesn't mean it's going to collapse. So I was doing 1 to 2 8 balls of Coke a day. I mean, that's a lot of Coke. I mean, I was doing fat rails of Coke. I was blowing my sinuses back out I would keep tissues and paper towels and stuff wet, and I would be like snorting it through. Well, I burned huge ass holes into my sinuses. So that's where a lot of my damage is all internal. Why does kratom? Yeah, I don't know why it makes you sick when you drink, because it necessarily shouldn't. I have done shrooms. How is your body when you were just quitting smoking? My body quitting smoking, I gained a lot of weight. When I quit smoking and I quit nicotine, I gained actually a lot of weight. I'm now on the weight loss side of it, thankfully. I've been taking testosterone. My testosterone was racked. And so I've got on TRT therapy. I've been changing up my diet and stuff, but I still struggle actually with weight versus when I actually use nicotine. I've been addicted since 2017. Became an addict from suicide attempt. I definitely feel that. I use 10 point no more. There you go. You're welcome, Joey. And I get it, Heather. One of the things I can say though is like what I learned when I used and I was an active addict is so much of mine was trauma escape and trauma based. I had a lot of abandonment trauma from a childhood standpoint. A lot going on here mentally, especially unmedicated. When I would unmedicate my ADHD, I really struggled with a lot of that stuff. So I just leaned heavily on drugs because it helped me so much, and in this own sick way that I thought. But in reality, it didn't help me because you can't control it, and it's more, and it develops this sickness almost in your brain, but it makes you escape everything. It's fucked up. I do take Adderall 5 days a week. Yes, ball a month. I feel it. What's up? When it hits you, there can be nauseous. You get to use to it. Similar. Oh, is it similar to opiates? Yeah, no. I mean, opiates that I've used. I mean, I'm familiar with like Norcos. I've taken Oxy before, but like even opiates, and I did Kratom too. It wasn't a drug of choice of mine, so I didn't abuse it. And when I took Kratom because I was experimenting with SSRIs. Like SSRIs have always done just shit for me. They never helped a lot. And I found Kratom. I'm like, oh my god, this is the cure all, save all. Like this shit's amazing. Until I went through the withdrawals of red Kratom. I mix blow and alcohol daily, only 2-3 beers usually. How I will say this. I mean, it comes up to your point of like, I won't ever say anybody's an addict, but if your life revolves around a substance and like you're thinking about that substance constantly, every time you use the substance, you're like, I'm never going to use it again. If it's always running space in your brain, you probably have an addiction there. That's the easiest way that I can put it. And thank you for being open and honest, big guy. Well, I'm glad, Ben, and I'm glad that you're going through it, dude. Way to go. How are you the 2 days you don't take Adderall? I'm actually pretty good, Lady J. I'm good without my Adderall for up to about 4 days. Like I have it down, I know. Day number 5 without my Adderall, it goes bad. Now I've been way too unproductive. I start to mentally get on myself. I become a lot more ADHD paralysis. It's a struggle for me. 1 to 2 days is all right. And the days that I don't take my Adderall, I actually take this phase 1. I started trying this. I do work with this company, and this actually helps me a decent amount because of the caffeine and L-theanine and stuff in it. 30 days clean, congratulations. That's huge. SSRIs, antidepressants often. Yeah, in M20 or M420, for me, they made me suicidal too. And that is a side effect of them. My dad's the one actually that picked up on it. I was on Lexapro for a while, and I got to the point that I just wanted to drive my car off the fucking road. And my dad was actually the one that was like, why are you having these mental changes? And we started kind of going through the meds that I was on and realized that it was my Lexapro. I only use Oxy skinny, orally empty. When I used heroin, I became fat or smoking. Okay, yeah. I get it, Jay. And it's amazing how the drugs affect us different. I was fat, like really big when I was on Coke. For whatever reason, Coke and alcohol mixture, because of whatever it did euphoria-wise, I love to eat. And I would just binge eat too while I was high as fuck. Which didn't make sense because when you're using Coke, you're supposed to be skinny, and I wasn't skinny. Sitting here weirdly because I use a lot. Even got into trouble with the law. I'm relapsed only 3 years. There you go. And I feel, Heather, I mean, everybody's on their own journey too. I've never used heroin. No, it was something I was really, really, really scared about. And do I carry Narcan with me? No. And the reason I don't carry Narcan with me is I'm probably lazy, and I probably should. If you want to know the truth, I probably should. I do have fentanyl test strips and stuff with me just because I did business with the company that did them. But I think that almost everyone should use Narcan, or at least keep it on them. The area that I live in, I've never seen anyone in an OD state. I've seen people OD before, but where I live, never seen it in Idaho. Where can you get diagnosed for ADHD? Heather, if you go to the descriptions in a lot of my videos, you'll see I have a thing for ADHD online. / Eric B. Zink is great. That service we actually use. My wife got diagnosed with ADHD. I had a feeling that she was, but I didn't want to self-diagnose her because I'm not a professional when it comes to that. But that's one of the great services that you can do. They will find you a psychiatrist in the area. They can help you with the meds. Great service out there. You ever? Oh yeah. I never think about alcohol all day. It's only enhanced blow. Yeah, no, with blow for me, it was always the opposite effect. Like I always thought about blow when I drank because I needed to like sober up and I didn't want to pass out. Plus, I knew it made me really euphoric. So the more coke I did, the more that I could drink, and I didn't realize what it was actually doing in my system, and I didn't realize how dangerous it was. But that was my big mixture that I did often. Haven't had a benzo in 5 years. Had no tolerance. Awesome, way to go. They aren't as effective as they were before. Um, no idea why they wouldn't be as effective as they were before. Do you have friends and relatives with ADHD? I do. My mom has ADHD. So did my dad. Is it common for people with ADD to use meth instead of prescription meds because it's much cheaper? Not necessarily. In some areas it is. Yes, in some areas it is. But I will also say this. ADHD meds like my Adderall, like generic Adderall, for 60 days is like $20. And so, like, again, when it comes to meth, I mean, the cost effective wise, like, I mean, I'm just going with, I know my ADHD meds, I know how they work. I know they're not cut with anything. I don't suggest trying to use it to try and offset. And it's really not that cost effective when it comes to a lot of the generic stuff out there. Did you know you were ready for a new relationship in your journey? How did Ben? When I wasn't looking, I got married and remarried, met my wife now in 2020. I got sober in 7/25/17. I was married to my ex-wife at the time, and the worst part was is when I got sober, I married, and I realized that I really didn't like my wife. I didn't like my situation. I hated my situation. I hated where I lived. I hated the stress that I was under. I didn't like anything about my life. And one of the things I did is the hard decision. We ended up getting divorced. I moved to Idaho. I was single for a year, and it just kind of happened. It wasn't like I looked at my journey of where I was at and said, okay, at this point in my journey, I'm going to get in a relationship. I did have a goal to be single for a year, and I was single for a year. Barely made that, but I found somebody when I wasn't looking, and she turned out to be an amazing woman. How can we connect with you? EricBZink.com is the best way to connect with me. If you go to EricBZink.com, that's my website. I do one-on-one mentoring there. I have a bunch of different services and stuff that I do. I have a bunch of supplements that I do there. I came up with a bunch of supplements to actually help with withdrawals because I know what it's like to be told to just raw dog it. And there's a lot of stuff out there that can help you, and then I donate the proceeds. Hi, Nathan. How are you? When I use Oxy orally, I became skinny. Not normal here, scared too. I feel it. Um, yeah, no, and that's the thing is like I think having Narcan on you is huge. I never did trick or steal from a dealer. No, the dealers that I knew, I mean, I knew the dealers. A lot of them worked for me. In fact, I would pawn off a lot of my shit to dealers. Like I would literally, I had Rolexes and stuff. And if it was to the point where I just didn't have any cash on me, like I would give them a fucking Rolex and then come buy it back from them a week later. So I never screwed over any dealers. Amphetamines, is that really viable medication to take for the rest of your life? M420, it is in the sense I'd rather take an amphetamine and be sane and functioning as an adult and not be obsessed with something like I was with cocaine and alcohol. I mean, that's the way that I look at it. There's a lot of people that are on SSRIs. Like, dude, if it helps you just make it through life, dude, why not? Every time I look at the doctor, puts me on written Adderall, I lose weight, become depressed. And so that's the thing is it's sometimes not for you. Sometimes finding the right medication. And trial and error with meds is scary, and it's not as easy as we think. Like it sounds so kumbaya to be like trial and error, man. Find what works for you. In reality, dude, you're fucking with your brain. It is a serious trial and error, and that's why it's so important to have good conversation until you find what works. Because $10 milligram per damn. 21, I do cocaine here and there, maybe an 8 ball a month. Hardest part is I find until I have it. And that's the thing with a lot of people is once you have it, you can't stop. I mean, and the reason is that you can't stop is just because of the massive amount of dopamine that it creates. That's why a lot of times when people will get an 8 ball of Coke or they'll get a couple grams or whatever it is, you do it all when you do it. And the reason that you do is because of the dopamine on it, man. It's only going to last in your system for about 15 minutes and then it drops you, that depression, that emptiness hits. The only way you're going to get that back is by doing it again. And now it creates a dopamine tolerance. That's why it's kind of like Lay's potato chips, man. You just can't have one. I'll try and post it, Heather. If not, if you click on any of my videos, see the pinned comment. All productions in Scotland are free. That's awesome. Well, I will keep this live stream up, Nikita. For sure. I have severe memory loss from almost 30 years of drugs. sober now, depression, severity. My biggest suggestion is seriously just getting with a therapist is a huge part of it. Finding out what's going on. You probably have some issues going still. How long have you been sober for? That's a big one. Hi. And the reason I ask that is, like, for my brain to get right, it took me about a year and a half to get like my brain normal again. It can take a long time for our brain to level itself back out. Finding psychiatrists that really know about addiction, I think, is huge because that really helps you find sometimes the right medication. It is a bit of a process. Adderall isn't it, then also maybe possible below similar respective people do Adderall, maybe. The difference between Adderall though and blow is this: blow is going to destroy your nose. It produces more dopamine than what the Adderall does. And amphetamine salt is not crystal meth either. And so when it comes to something that's producing dopamine, it's the effect in the dopamine producing effect that cocaine gives you is different. It stops the reuptake instead of the production. Do you ever miss? No, I never miss it at ever. I will say, getting sober when I went to therapy and really learned why I used, really got rid of a lot of the urges. Don't expect you to give it to me, but your undivided attention right now, I feel invisible. Everybody that asks for help, but you're not invisible. And the thing is, I will say, if you ask people for help, ask the people that you don't expect. Like strangers on the street, a lot of times will give you more help than what family will. But just be prepared for help. How many of your relationships, friends, ex-addicts that can relate to? There's a lot. There's a lot, Ben. Don't get me wrong. I do feel sorry for myself. And that's all right. A lot of times we do feel sorry for ourselves. Sometimes we just want somebody to be our friend. You can watch this stream later, absolutely. Does meth cause anxiety like Adderall? Meth can cause way more anxiety than Adderall because of what it's doing to your serotonin. It can also get you to the point that you're hallucinating. Unless you're taking a massive amount of Adderall, you're not going to have the hallucination and the paranoia that you're going to have with meth. I've done cocaine that was laced with meth or cut with meth, and I've watched what that's done to people. I watched what it did to my wife who killed herself. I watched her piss herself because she thought that the SWAT team was going to break down the door. I mean, your paranoia level is a whole different level. Hi. Do you smoke? I do not smoke weed or marijuana or any of that. It gives me anxiety. I'm all for Cali sober. I think if you're a heroin addict or a meth addict, whatever it was, opiates, and you smoke before bed to help you go to sleep or with your anxiety or whatever, a couple tokes out of a pen, cool, dude, like whatever. To me, it's not that huge of a deal. I would rather see somebody functioning that way and not revolving their life around a substance like they were probably with heroin or something of that sort, if that makes sense. I am one of those people, like, I really don't judge people on your sobriety. There's a lot of people that are sober that are like, oh, I'm sober, all this stuff, but they're taking SSRIs. And technically speaking, an SSRI does change your brain and your chemistry in your brain, so technically you're not sober. So if you do use something like weed and it helps, like, dude, it helps. Like, I'd rather see somebody smoking a joint than shooting up, not sure if there's heroin in it. Next thing you know, they're getting Narcan back to life. I live in a town where there is a population less than 1,200 people. There is no MDS. There is online though. One of the best things you can do is online. There's so many different things, and I'm not even a huge fan of BetterHelp, but BetterHelp is online. I mean, there's a lot of online Zoom therapists that you can do. Sober Dogs is one. I don't know who that is. I'll have to look him up. I've done CG Kid, who used to do a lot of videos, is one of my best friends. He does CG Sense now. He still does YouTube. He deleted his old channel. Derek Lambert used to do a lot of addiction too. And really, I mean, I stayed away from a lot of collabs and stuff like that because I ended up kind of just doing my own thing, and I just enjoyed it. I really enjoy speaking about addiction. I enjoy speaking about ADHD. Just because it was a lot of stuff that like people related to, and I for whatever reason I had fun and have fun talking on those. When is your best advice for someone with MDD and severe anxiety? My best advice is to vocalize it out, to share it out, but to find a therapist and be honest with them. And I know it sounds really dumb, like, really, that's your best advice, be honest with the therapist. We all lie to our therapists. Like, that was my biggest problem, and I shared that's why I share from my experience. My biggest problem, Caitlin, was when it came to therapy, I lied to my therapist. Everything was always good. Everything was always great. The meds worked and the meds were fine. Even if I wasn't even taking the meds because they didn't do shit. Being honest and real with your therapist is what I think really makes a difference. And then setting goals and knowing where you hit these threshold points of your goals when it comes to therapy. Is losing friends common amongst people with ADHD? It is morbid. And in fact, you're not necessarily are you losing friends when it comes to autism and ADHD, but we do have a lot of out of sight, out of mind is the easiest way to put it. I forgot what the term is right offhand, but if they're not in front of us, we do like forget people, and people can take that wrong. We don't miss people like normal people do. And so friendship struggles with ADHD especially can be very difficult along with autism. Do I have any children? I have two stepkids. They're awesome. I have a 11-year-old and a 17-year-old. She's going to go to college here next year. She graduates. I'm super proud of her. She just won a huge competition thing here on a debate thing. That like the girl's amazing because I use a daily. My nose doesn't work most of the, especially now in winter. How do I know my apartment? I don't smell like hell. You may, I mean, shower and stuff, I guess, daily. I don't know how to necessarily help you with that. My nose is still jacked up. I still have a bad sense of smell, and it just gets worse. And then it starts to affect your sense of taste. That's hard for me to do because my mama is my therapist. Yeah, you want to find a different therapist than that. That's the biggest thing is you don't want family as therapists. My dad was a family doctor, and that was the worst thing in the fucking world. Get a different doctor. Thank you. I'm a caring for an 80-year-old mother, Alzheimer's. Dude, that's brutal, Lilith. That's brutal. It's a lot to go through. My son is using kratom, huge as he quit, became suicidal, going through terrible withdrawals over a month, terrible anxiety, depression, insomnia. And Nikita, that does happen. That is a part of kratom. Kratom's brutal. In about 30 more days, he'll probably be a little bit more leveled off and good. It depends on if he was mixing it with anything else. I will say this is getting with, again, psychiatrists that understands addiction is huge. Getting sometimes with the right recovery center, it can help a lot. Getting a lot of times the right support can help. Finding other things to naturally produce dopamine can help with the depression. Because a lot of times when you're going through those withdrawals, you go into just this mad paralysis and you're not doing anything, which allows the depression to get even worse. And that's one of the worst things ever is when you start to isolate yourself. Now you're alone, you're isolated, you're bored, and all you're going into battle with is your brain every single day. Thanks, I appreciate that. I was never really big into LSD except in high school. High school, I dropped a lot of acid. Do you tell them about your addiction? I do. I tell them about my addiction all the time. I'm super, trust me, all my doctors know about my addiction. You can go online and find out all about my addiction. And I've never had an issue. In fact, a lot of the doctors out there who understand addiction, understand ADHD are like the most helpful in the world. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stigmas that go along with it. I mean, I forget to take my ADHD meds all the time. Anyone that it's always funny because people are like, oh, you probably abuse your ADHD meds, bro. If I take my ADHD meds how I'm supposed to twice a day, that's like a fucking win. I have it in my daily planner to take my meds twice a day and I have alarms in my phone to take my meds because I forget all the time. What hobbies do I have enjoy now? Ben, I do a lot of different things now. Like right now, I love Magic the Gathering. I do collect Pokemon. My wife and I do puzzles during the wintertime. I'm going to go to the gym here later on. I love going to the gym. I love walking. So I'll go to the gym. I'll end up walking for probably an hour and a half tonight. I'll probably put on a movie. I do social media for a living, so that's kind of fun still too. It's even almost a hobby of mine. So to do my hobby as a living is actually kind of cool. How do you tell yourself that the suicidal thoughts are irrational? Just kind of like that. I know a lot of them are, and a lot of times I talk them out and try to realize what's making me feel that way. I smoked weed as a kid, but it's not. I hate weed. It messes with my anxiety. Last time I tried an edible was like a year ago with my wife. We were doing 75 hard, and I figured I would try it with her. And again, my anxiety, like it just doesn't do anything for me. What's the biggest side effect of ADHD meds and other medications? Similar? It depends. It depends on the person. Most common ADHD side effect you're going to get is going to be loss of appetite or dry mouth. That's the biggest one. That's why there's a lot of misconceptions around it. People think all the time that, oh, you're going to be like a meth addict tweaking out, just fucking, dude, I take my fucking Adderall and sometimes it's hard for me to get off the couch because I'm so like focused on, hey, I got to get this one project done. Do they allow alcohol to be illegal if that is what fuels people to use cocaine? It doesn't necessarily fuel people to use cocaine. I wouldn't blame alcohol as the reason people use cocaine. I don't know why alcohol is legal in general, just because of the DTs of it, which it'll always be illegal and stuff. But alcohol is like one of the deadliest withdrawals that there is. Like, it kills more people than most withdrawals out there. There's only two withdrawals that will kill you. Meth withdrawal won't kill you. Heroin withdrawal won't kill you. Fentanyl withdrawal won't kill you. Alcohol withdrawal can kill you. Same with benzos. And it's amazing that something that has a mortality rate of about 15%, that means 15 people out of 100 people withdrawing from alcohol can die or die, is a pretty high percentage. You're like, dude, seriously? Would you have relapsed? Would you tell anyone? If I relapsed, I would. I have no desire to, though. And you'd be able to probably tell very easily. He doesn't have insurance. That's the biggest thing is he needs to see a therapist for it. And that's unfortunate. I mean, there's pros and cons of kratom. It is an addictive substance. It is pain management, though. It is affordable. It is cheap. And the worst part, Nikita, there are free mental health services out there. Um, I have to look them back up of what ones they are. But that's the thing, is a lot of times, especially with the depression and stuff, he may need an SSRI, or he may need something else. And a lot of that you get through therapy. So without the insurance, unless you can customer pay it or you can customer pay it, I don't know a whole lot of the best out there. And that's the unfortunate reality of it, when it comes down to how our health system is, unfortunately. Um, I will say there are some things out there that can help them. Some give them like a little bit of temporary relief, like you can take magnesium stuff that will help a little bit. When it comes to like depression and stuff, there's stuff like zinc and natural vitamins that you can take, but it's like throwing rocks at a wall. The biggest thing I will say is that he has to get open enrollment. I think is still going for insurance. If you can get on insurance, man, that's the way to go. What do I enjoy the most now with your life? My wife and just our goals. We are in escrow now for a house. Just going in places in life I never thought I would. Is there someone else in your family with addiction, uncle or something? There's a few. Yeah. I believe I love my face and my teeth going numb more than I love sweet. Some people are that way, and that's the truth, man. A lot of people live for the drip. Hollywood Undead, Corn. It all depends, man. Pink Pony Club, Sproul Roan. Yeah, my music's all over the fucking board. But no, and I get it. I mean, that's the thing with addiction is we love how it makes us feel. It's a controlled feeling. That is part of that weird obsession with an addict. Like I never did crack cocaine because smoking crack is a waste. I love the rolling up of a dollar bill. I love the laying out of the lines, the licking of the credit card. Like I was obsessed with the whole process. That's why I've snorted meth before. I've snorted a lot of stuff that wasn't coke. People could lay stuff out and tell me it was coke, and I would just vacuum it up because I loved that whole process too. That's the sick side of addiction. That's where we have that weird obsession. Does sex feel as good before? Dude, sex feels better sober, dude. I will say this. Like, you think that sex, like, fucked up feels good, especially when you're mixing coke and alcohol together, which creates cocaine, which is euphoric. But, man, when you have sex sober, it is so much more fun. You forget what it's actually like. And you're like, dude, like, you remember it. It is so much more fun. Appreciate you helping out a lot. Well, I appreciate you. You like Queen or Bush, Nirvana? I like Nirvana. I was never a big Bush person. Queen, I do like Queen. Who doesn't like Queen? He was using kratom, insomnia, depression. Yeah. He continued with kratom, or I wouldn't continue with either of them. I would seriously do the open enrollment. I mean, find insurance. I'm old. I mean, my insurance right now, because the Affordable Care Act is still there, was like $340 a month. Trust me, it's worth it. For him, depending on his age, it's probably kind of cheap. So, just been struggling with none of my friends. Family know I'm struggling. Don't know how to help it. That's, I would talk to. I would seriously talk to a counselor. That's the best thing I can say. Most of my content's geared towards people over 18. I don't do content for less than that. I don't know of any resources. I will say though, get with like a teacher, get with a counselor that you trust, and ask for help. I think Wade makes sex feel so much more intense. And some people it does. I love sober sex. I will just say that. Like I truly love sober sex because I remember the whole thing. Still struggle with addiction, but I'm glad it helps Jonas. Why is heroin so common among rock musicians? I have no idea, man. I really don't. Morbid. Your dad's alcoholic, so ADHD is more likely to be alcoholic, coke, or something. Yeah, no. People with ADHD, it's proven that people with ADHD are more likely to be alcoholic. That you can fall into alcohol addiction a lot easier, and it's not an excuse to be an alcoholic or to be an addict. But people with ADHD will a lot of times because alcohol does create some dopamine. It creates focus. It slows down the inner dialogue. It helps with the rejection sensory. It helps us with listening. I mean, it's a very, very unhealthy coping tool. Xanax or alcohol more addictive in your opinion? Both of them are very addictive. I would not take them together either. Morgan, taking them together is the deadliest combination. I have a friend who personally died from that OD. Um, Alcohol and Xanax are like the deadliest withdrawals. They affect your central nervous system. Mixing them together is very dangerous. It's like putting a weighted blanket over your central nervous system. And so think of like your blood pressure and your heart rate, all that stuff has this weighted blanket over it. It just slows it all down. And when it wears off, it gets hyperactive. So it shoots through the roof. It doesn't go back to normal. It gets hyperactive, hypersensitive. And that's what causes the fluctuation so much in like heart rate and cardiac arrest. There's a lot. Um, Thank you, Caitlin. Were you ever worried about undercovers? No, I wasn't. There's a part of me that really wanted Mitchell to get fucking arrested because I thought maybe that was a sign that I needed to get sober, actually. I was never, ever afraid of the law. I was never afraid of getting arrested because there's times I just wish I would have gotten a DUI or something, even just to maybe be the wake up call that I needed because I could not quit, but I knew I had a problem at a point. I can give insight on CPTSD is just it's prolonged trauma of the same sort over a long period of time, like sexual abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse. That type of stuff can cause CPTSD. It's not just one event; it's multiple events on the same type of abuse. Is what CPTSD is. That's the easiest way I can explain it for you, Mohammed. Have you ever injected? Nope. I had a fear of needles. In fact, I've had a fear of needles all the way up until my testosterone. It took me a while too, but I can actually inject myself with testosterone in my thighs. I have a massive fear of needles though. And no, I never ever injected anything. Every time I panic on cocaine, I watch your videos. They make me calm because I can feel we have been in the same position point. There you go, Jonas. What's the deadliest drug you have done? I never did fentanyl. Mine would probably be mixing cocaine and alcohol. Cocaine, alcohol, and Viagra, actually. That combination is actually pretty dangerous just because of what it does to your heart and the risk of heart attack, tearing your aortic valve. And it was like I was taking tons of Viagra and I was pounding in lots of cocaine and alcohol. Like it took a toll. What's your view about research chemical drugs which can be purchased legally? When it comes to research drugs, no. But is using Xanax to quit alcohol? No, Morgan, you want to get with the doctor on it. It is not safe. It's quitting that way. Don't replace Xanax with the alcohol to taper off. Get with your doctor, and there's different meds that they can get you on that will help you with those withdrawals. That's the one thing that you really got to know when it comes to taking those. Did your kids know about? Yeah, my stepkids do. And they have no interest in drugs. Weed, hash, alcohol, there you are. Services you mentioned, finding therapy. For finding therapists, I mean, you have BetterHelp. You can go to ADHD online. BetterHelp is a good one. There's a handful of them out there. Google BetterHelp and it will tell you all the other ones out there that can help you actually with a psychiatrist or with a psychologist. With a psychiatrist, it's ADHD online can help you find a psychiatrist. Does your health regimen look like? Eating healthy. I drink 3 shakes usually a day. I'm on a protein kick right now. Lots of protein, lots of chicken, lots of rice. I go to the gym every day for usually about an hour. So today I'm going to go after this live actually, and it's chest and stomach today. And then I'll end up walking for probably about 10,000 steps after that. That's my health regimen. Tomorrow will be legs. And 10,000 steps. So that's, I work out 5 times a week. I do 10,000 steps 5 times a week, 2 days off. What was the first time you ever tried alcohol? I was about 14. Mhm. I got paranoid, whatever, smoked weed now. Yeah, I used to get paranoid. And it can happen. Weed can make you paranoid. How dangerous is cocaine? It depends, Jonas. I mean, is it laced with fentanyl? It is something that's now cut with fentanyl in it, so it can be super dangerous. It all depends. I missed it. Better Help is one of them, and then ADHD online. What's most LSD you ever took before? 2 tabs in a day, not much. I mean, I was in high school and I used to do it. Psychedelics can help. I mean, there's psychedelics that are incorporated into therapy to help with therapy, even. So, I think that psychedelics can have some benefits for 11. There you go, and not uncommon. Better help. I live in Denmark, so I'm kind of safe. We have not seen fentanyl yet. No, you are. But you also have like weird drugs over there, like 3-MMC and stuff like that. You have a lot more synthetics over there than what you get over here, but also you don't have fentanyl per se. Um, I don't know, but I think I was addicted equally to both. I had a weird obsession with both. What Xanax have you been prescribed because it's legal in Australia and hard to get? Well, I wouldn't buy anything on the dark web for one. Dark web, like Xanax, is typically cut with fentanyl and pill press um, because it calms you down, slows you down, highly addictive. And so in Australia, though, I do believe you have Klonopin that is actually available as a benzodiazepam. It depends. I get with your doctor. Um, how can I approach the subject of getting a therapist with my parents? Just like that, or with the help of a teacher or a counselor at school. Any experiments with Lucy or shrooms? Yeah, both. Um, I microdosed even for a while. That it made me lackadaisical though. Um, wasn't a huge fan of it. I appreciate you guys for showing up for this. I'm actually going to get ready and go to the gym. I will go live again tomorrow. I do enjoy doing these lives. I enjoy just interacting and sharing and hopefully helping somebody not feel alone because that's what it's about. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe button, hit the like and subscribe button. Follow my channel. I do a lot of sharing when it comes to this stuff. If you have videos that you want to see, if you comment in my comments, I'll do videos on that stuff. I got a bunch of videos I got to do, and I have videos coming up for you. But I do appreciate everybody who has followed this channel. This channel is actually one of my big prides and joys. I love my YouTube channel. I really busted my ass for it. But I hope that you guys have a beautiful rest of the day. And I'm going to jump off this and go to the gym. So I hope that you go do something fun too.